Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Shawn the Baptist Live on this Wednesday, February 10th. It is the feast of Saint Scholastica, the sister of Saint Benedict, who is famous in her own right for her incredible holiness and her commitment to Jesus as a consecrated religious. She is someone who we'll talk about tonight. Thanks for hanging with me last week while I was away on retreat. So I hope you enjoyed that little video about Project Chrysalis that I had done before. This is for those who have lost children or grandchildren. And so I did a little talk for Project Chrysalis and posted that video for last week's Shawn the Baptist Live. So the video was recorded live, but wasn't live last Wednesday. In fact, I recorded it last Tuesday, and then I was away on retreat during our time last Wednesday. But I am back live with you tonight from St. Patrick Catholic Church here in Kansas City, Kansas, where I am done retreating and I am charging again. So I guess that's kind of the moral of the story. Sometimes we have to retreat so that we can then charge ahead. And so that's what I went away to do. And it's a great time of prayer. And I went to Colorado, so I did a lot of hiking, saw some mountains, reconnected with great friends, and really got to see some good family that I hadn't seen for a bit as well. So it was a really great, refreshing time. I have to say, though, that I kind of wish I could go back to the warm Rocky Mountains, because it was 50 degrees in the afternoons. Great for hiking. I come back to Kansas, and it's below zero. So I don't quite know what to do with that. The Rocky Mountains were warmer and better. But I got so much exercise. You know, I have to think, if I lived in Colorado, I would be in such great shape. I mean, they've got mountains and pine forest and things going for them. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Kansas has got its own beauty. You get into kind of the eastern part of Colorado, and then it starts to look a little flat more. And I'm like, hey, this looks like Kansas. And so it did some of that too. But great to see the snow-covered Rockies and sit by a fire in the evenings and enjoy that. So good to be back with you here, though. Here at St. Patrick's, as I mentioned, it's cold. It's been a lot of snow shoveling. And thanks to Mark Gilstrap, we thirst while you were gone. Thirst. I like that. It's either very theological on Mark's part, or he meant to say like he missed me while I was gone. Either way, not such a bad thing. But I am back with you tonight. I can't find my little spotlight thing, so if I look a little blue on this angle, it's because when I'm looking at you here, I got my computer monitor right in front of me, and if you don't know, like, that gives that kind of a blue light. When I go to the left here, this is my real camera. That looks a lot better, and so probably it's a little nicer looking. But anyway, so a little update here. So tonight, ask you to especially keep in your prayers Father John Reynolds, a priest of the Archdiocese of Kansas City, Kansas, long time. And he's been suffering with Parkinson's, Lewy body disease. Been a great struggle for him, and he is in hospice and near the end of his life any moment, really. So our pastor here, Father Mark Murtis, is a really good, long-time, lifelong friend of Father John Reynolds. It has really been beautiful to see Father Mark take care of Father John here in the last days of his life. And so Father Mark is with him right now. And so keep Father John Reynolds and Father Mark as well, and all the priests of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in your prayers, as it's always sad to lose one of our own from their earthly ministry, but pray in this year of St. Joseph, especially for a happy death for Father John, and that he will quickly move on to his reward in heaven. Joyce is on as always and is giving the little prayer emojis there. So thanks for your prayers for Father John. Thanks, Diane, for that as well. All right, so we've got one more week until Lent starts. Next week is Ash Wednesday. Hard to believe, but yeah, it seems like we just finished Christmas. You know, I got my little manger scene taken down back there, put away. Yeah, even if I strung it out to February 2nd, well, we're there. So Christmas tide is definitely over now, and Lent is going to be upon us. So what are you doing for Lent? Do you got questions? Anyone want to share? I was looking at the bulletin. I wrote a bulletin article this weekend, and one of the things I notice when I look at the scriptures for this upcoming weekend, it's about Jesus healing a leper, and lepers in the scriptures. This is not a fun disease at all, but it also had great social consequences. So if you were a leper, not only were you sick, so literally there was like pieces of your skin falling off your body, as if that's not bad enough. You're also a social outcast. So you are, after you're determined to be a leper, you literally have to go around anytime anybody tries to get near you. You have to yell out, unclean, unclean. Yeah, it's almost like if you were to cough today, everyone would just like, move away from you, like COVID, quick. If anybody coughs, everyone like runs for the hills. It was at least that bad, and a little bit worse. So great social consequences as well as great physical suffering. So whenever we talk about lepers, we have to keep that kind of thing in mind. But it's interesting because in the first reading for Mass this weekend, which ties in with the healing of the leper, it talks about leprosy in the Old Testament and how if you were suspected of being a leper, well, you weren't allowed to like judge that yourself. Okay, you had to go show yourself to the priest, and then the priest would make a judgment as to whether or not you are clean or unclean. And because it had great social consequences. If someone is a leper, that's a contagious kind of disease, and it tends to spread and infect everybody. And so I thought that was interesting that you had to go show yourself to the priest, and someone else, would make the determination. Because then it happens that when Jesus, in a gospel heals a leper, he says, okay, now go show yourself to the priest. Like, why would he do that? Well, because the priest is the one who could then make the determination to say, okay, you're no longer a leper. You're healed. And so there are two things that came to mind. One, I wrote about in the bulletin for this weekend. So if you're St. Pat's, you'll see this. But the idea that when you're thinking about what to give up for Lent, a lot of times we think of, what do I want to do? I'll give up this. Or, hopefully we give something up, but then we also take something on, something good that we want to do. And we're going to talk about that tonight with kind of a rule of life. But here's a thought that came to mind. Just like a leper couldn't diagnose his own leprosy and couldn't declare himself clean or unclean, what if you asked somebody else this year, what do you think I should give up for Lent? What do you think I ought to do? Okay, that might be interesting. Ask your spouse, what do you think I need to give up for Lent? Or, ask a parent or a friend, a relative. I'm not saying you have to do it. I mean, that would be bold if you just told your spouse, like, I'm going to give up whatever you tell me to give up for Lent. Wow. There's like humble submission and obedience to your spouse. Might also help you get holy, because your spouse probably knows better than anybody what you need to give up or fast from. But let's say you're not going to just automatically agree. It's still a good idea. Like, maybe ask, okay, what do you see? Where do you think the weaknesses or sicknesses are? And especially if you love your spouse, I mean, your goal as a spouse is to get both of you to heaven, or even in our spiritual friendships, we want to get each other to heaven. That's the thing that we want most of all. So, yeah, it's not like we need to focus on just our weaknesses. So life is not about, let's eliminate all my weaknesses. Number one, that's impossible, and it's going to drive you crazy. Instead, I really like the idea of maximizing our strengths. Yeah, so a spouse should especially do that, okay? Most of the time, let's say 90% of the time, the job in our relationships, especially marriages, spousal relationship, find what's good about the other person and help magnify it. Build them up. Help them to maximize their gifts and talents. I think that's one of the best things we could do. But there are times when you can say, okay, maybe you can help someone you care about see a weakness that they don't see. And so that's also a really great thing you could do. So just like a leper would have to go show himself to the priest, maybe take a risk this year and show yourself and ask someone else, where am I unclean? Where do I need a little help? Where can I work to magnify my gifts by sort of eliminating weaknesses too. All right, here's the other thing that I didn't put in the bulletin. This idea about the social sin of leprosy, and the idea that, like, wow, why are they so mean to the leper? Kick him out of the society and make them live by themselves, and go around yelling, unclean, unclean. That sounds horrible. Like, why would you do that to someone? Well, it's not because, like, we're looking to ostracize people for no reason. It's because if you're a leper, you've got a really, really infectious disease that if you just stay in the community like normal, well, you're going to infect everybody. So that's not good. So it's not without reason that the lepers are kind of put aside. And I thought about that as, I read something that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops had kind of, some of them had said as they're debating, like, what to do about, politicians and Eucharistic communion, and should people be excommunicated, and should they be denied communion? And those are kind of technical words that a lot of people maybe don't understand. And what caught my attention, though, was that some of the bishops were saying, it's just not a nice Catholic thing to do, to be like excluding people from the Eucharist. And one person, this really kind of irked me, because and this wasn't a bishop, this was someone else who was speaking on behalf of the bishops, saying that, in our history, we just haven't done this. I'm thinking, in our history, we haven't done this? Like, exclude people from communion? Really, only in our recent history have we gotten soft on this. I'm thinking about the early church in particular, and by early, I mean like the first several centuries. And, all the time, they had big sins that not only would it exclude you from the Eucharist, like they kick you right out of the church. I'm thinking of adultery, apostasy, and murder. You commit any of those, like, you can't even be Christian anymore. Like, your baptism, they thought, might be invalid. Like, there's no baptism again, so there's no way to repent from sin. Like, so we don't even have confession at this point. So if you committed one of those things, you're out. And why? Because those are just like, oh, these are the ones we're going to pick on? No, because these are the things that most undermine society. Adultery, apostasy, and murder not only are sins against God, but they're going to undermine the entire fabric of your society. It's like a leprosy that is just going to destroy you. So they had to take serious action. Now today, I think we have something similar in kind of just the, carelessness in the way we treat the Eucharist. So it's not just, who can go to the Eucharist, but who even believes the Eucharist? Do we really believe this is God? Do we really believe the Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus? If so, of course we're not going to want to approach unworthily. I mean, you're not going to want to approach the Eucharist in a state of mortal sin. It would do more harm than good. So there's a pastoral side in which the law of the church actually says that if someone is manifestly, persisting, obstinately in grave sin, well, the priest should not give them communion because it will hurt them. I mean, it's just like giving a prescription to someone who ordinarily it's good, but this person is allergic to it. Okay? Maybe they're going to have a violent reaction. And that's what happens spiritually when we give the Eucharist to someone in serious sin. Not only is it not good for them, it hurts them terribly, like a violent reaction. We just don't see it physically. It's spiritual. So there's that. But then there's also the issue of the larger society and scandal. Part of the problem is when we got people saying, I'm a great Catholic. I'm a devout Catholic. Number one, anyone who ever says I'm a devout Catholic, you can be sure they're not. Because people who are actually good practicing Catholics realize how humbly miserable sinners we are in need of help. And we don't go around saying, yeah, look at me, I'm a great Catholic. No, great Catholics actually don't do that. Like St. Therese, the little flower. She probably never committed a serious sin her whole life. But you read her autobiography, she's like, I'm terrible. I'm the most sinner of sinners. I'm horrible. So yeah, someone who goes around saying what a miserable sinner they are, more likely to be a devout Catholic than someone says they're devout Catholic. Nonetheless, it's really popular today for public people, especially, to go around saying what a great Catholic they are. And then they espouse things that Catholics cannot espouse, like, obviously favoring abortion and things like that. And that's what's getting the ball rolling again on politicians who now have the power, because of who's in power, to vote to promote abortion. And we're not talking just tolerate it, but actually promote it. What should we do? Well, it's more than just that individual person's soul, but really the soul of the whole church. Do we really believe what we say we believe? If we believe that the murder of an innocent child is one of the greatest crimes we could ever commit, then why don't we act like it? How could we just kind of casually tolerate it? It'd be like if the church were to just casually tolerate, a little murder here and there is not a big deal. Little apostasy, who cares if no one really cares who's married to who? Well, pretty soon if you get lax on big things, you fall apart. And we're already seeing that. Why are we so polarized in our politics? Abortion. We can compromise on economic issues, things like that. When it comes to, are we in favor of killing little children or not? There's just no middle ground. There's only one right answer to that question. So, kind of as a little bit of intro on a different topic there, because it's kind of timely. There are things in the church as deadly as leprosy right now, and it's not physical illness. It's not COVID. It's kind of a moral laxity, and sadly, a tolerance of this moral laxity by the church hierarchy, especially herself. We're not willing to stand up and call out sin as sin, and to actually invoke family discipline. Like we're very keen on rooting out any kind of sexual things now. That's like the big thing because of the sexual abuse of minors scandal. Now we won't tolerate any of that, but we'll tolerate heresy and sacramental abuse all over the place and do nothing. So pray for the church and leadership here that we can be bold and help invoke some good church discipline to just stand up for what we really believe. And if we do that, will people leave? Yeah, I kind of hope so, actually. I mean, there are a bunch of people who say they don't really believe in the Eucharist in the first place. Why are they still here? There's no reason to be Catholic if it's not for the Eucharist. So, I don't know. Should we lose people? Yeah, I kind of think so. I think if we're preaching the truth about who we say we are and what we believe, we got a bunch of people hanging around who don't really believe that. So, anything we could do to make it more clear what we believe such that some people will leave because they don't believe it, it's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It's true in ecumenical relations. You can't compromise on what you believe to bring about unity. Actually, adherence to truth brings about unity because it's then clear what everyone believes. So that's a little introduction to leprosy and the upcoming readings for this weekend. Mark is asking, will we have any Lenten retreat in the church? Yes. Father Mark and Father Michael and I are due to meet anytime. Father John Reynolds' illness has kind of thrown us for a loop. But soon we are, in fact, going to be talking about having a parish mission that the three of us, I think, are going to give. So stay tuned for that. As soon as we can get a meeting in, we are going to do that, actually, for Lent. All right. So with that introduction, do feel free to give your questions, but I did want to talk a little bit about a rule of life. Now, what am I talking about when I talk about a rule of life? Well, first of all, a rule, I don't mean this in maybe the sense you might be thinking of it. So a rule in the church kind of has a technical sense. So, for instance, if you are part of a religious order, like, say, the Benedictines, well, when St. Benedict founded the Benedictines, he wrote for them a rule, a regula, a rule of life. And so it essentially outlines this is what their day is going to look like. It's what they're going to do to pursue holiness according to their own particular charism as Benedictines in that case. So St. Benedict's rule is one of the most famous. It's really one of the very first monastic rules. Now, Augustine and Basil in the East, there are other religious rules, but for a long time, the Benedictine rule is what most newfound religious orders were based on. And it's the kind of typical things we would think of monastic life, like what hours are we going to pray, and when are we going to eat, and how is work going to be carried out. And the famous motto of the Benedictines is ora et labora, work and prayer. So Benedict writes this regula, this rule to govern his new little group of religious, and it orders their day so that it's not that everyone has to live it the same way. I mean, if you look at the Dominican rule, it's different. Certainly the Franciscan rule is different, and so there's not one right rule of life. There's no one right way. Father, how should I order my life? Well, I don't know. That's something that has to be discerned. So people who would join a religious order have discerned that they feel called to that particular rule of life. So, for instance, when I was thinking about being a priest, the things I went through my mind was like, well, I enjoy that kind of communal prayer, like the monks do in the monastery. So, like, maybe I should be a Benedictine. I thought, well, I don't know if I'm called to kind of be isolated from the world as much, because the monastic life is a bit of separation from the world. Although Benedictines, work in prayer, they kind of do it a little bit differently. So I thought, well, if I'm looking for more of a external preaching kind of mission, well, the Dominicans are the Order of Preachers, OP. That's what that stands for, Ordo Predicarum. And so they preach, and I really like doing that, so maybe I should do that. But part of their rule is also mendicancy and prayer and begging and poverty, and I go, okay, I'm less called to that. So I thought the Jesuits, they follow a rule that involves a lot of study and teaching, things like that. I thought, well, that might kind of work, but, well, there are other issues with the Jesuits in modern times, and so it wasn't quite maybe the community fit that I was looking for. And so I kind of went round and round about this, and I realized, there's not one particular community that fits me. So as a diocesan priest, I get to do a little bit what all of you get to do as lay people, and that is create my own rule for life. So I might talk a little bit tonight about how I structure my life, and particularly as we come up to Lent. The reason I wanted to talk about this tonight is because as we come to Lent, all of us are looking to make some changes. And that might mean eliminating some things that are getting in the way of holiness. But it probably also means adding some things that maybe we need to be doing that we haven't been. So it's a good time to kind of help formulate what rule, what order to my life do I want to bring about. Because when I'm looking at what do I want to do for Lent, I'm always looking at what can I do such that it's not just, I'm going to do this for Lent, and then when Lent is over, I'm done with that. That's why, don't just give up chocolate for Lent. Because what's going to happen when Easter comes, well, even if I do give up chocolate for Lent, which I've done, and it's not a bad thing to do, but when Easter comes, I'm going to gorge myself on Russell Stover cream eggs. I love Russell Stover cream eggs. If you're looking to get me something for Easter, by the way, I like the dark chocolate maple and the milk chocolate vanilla. Those are my two favorites, but strawberry is a third favorite. So anyway, mental note: what to get Father Shawn for Easter? Russell Stover cream eggs, not those Cadbury eggs. They're dumb. I don't like the Cadbury eggs. Don't get me Peeps. I don't like Peeps. I like chocolate and the Russell Stover cream eggs with the beautiful cream filling. That's nice. Okay, but anyway, if I give up chocolate for Lent, I'm gonna go back to eating chocolate after Lent is over, pretty much. So what can I do that moves me forward a little bit? So what new good habits can I form over Lent so that when I get to Easter, I've formed a new habit and I have a new freedom. I'm not going to go just back to something. So I did a little bit of that, as you know, for Advent. So for Advent, I decided I wanted to pray more. And I realized if I was going to do that, where am I going to find the time? Because time keeps getting away. You think, oh, you're a priest, you have time to pray. Well, there's stuff. There's adulting to do as a priest as well. So I decided, well, I need to get up earlier. So for Advent, I decided, well, I'm gonna get up at 5 every day. After Christmas, I kind of slacked off a little bit on that. So I think I'm gonna reboot that. Definitely be getting up at 5 every morning and pray all my liturgy of the hours and things. So when we look at a rule of life, we should start with our day. And granted, not every day is going to be exactly the same. We're not monks. Even diocesan priests are not monks. So we have no guarantee that, every day might not be different from the previous day. And certainly that as lay people, to get 2 days in a row that look the same, okay, if you're retired and living kind of a habitual life, sure. But if you're married, you got kids, and you're running all over the place, good luck. I mean, 2 days in a row that are the same? No, try to find like 2 hours that match up. So your rule has to be your rule. And I grew up in St. Francis de Sales Parish in Lansing, and St. Francis de Sales was a great kind of guide for this for lay people. He pointed out that holiness has to be done according to our state of life. That means, are you a lay person? Well, then you can't spend 8 hours a day in prayer in the church like a monk might, or a contemplative. You've got family responsibilities you got to take care of, so your prayer is going to look different than a monk. Same way, if you're a priest, I've got lots of responsibilities to take care of at the parish. I've got a family too, in the parish family, and various things. But if I were to spend my whole day just doing stuff and taking care of things, and not, getting at least an hour of prayer, well, then I'd be messing up. And St. Francis de Sales uses the example. Look, if you're a bishop, you got to be taking care of your priest in your diocese. You can't spend all day in prayer as if you're a monk. So holiness according to our state of life is one of the first things I think we need to keep in mind when we're looking at a rule of life. So with that said, in general terms, when we look at our day, okay, what might we want to put in there? Well, okay, let's say we start to say, okay, well, this is a religious thing, so we need to pray. Okay, good. How long and when? Well, let's say for just the beginner, just starting out, okay, 15 minutes of meditation a day. What do I mean by meditation? So I don't mean vocal prayer, like praying the Our Father, the Hail Mary, not pray the Rosary for 15 minutes, although that can be meditative. I mean 15 minutes of maybe read a little passage of Scripture, and then mull it over in our minds, talk to Jesus about it. Okay, we call that colloquy, colloquium, to talk with, to talk together. Talk to Jesus about it. Talk about what's going on. Okay, I read this passage of Scripture today. What does it say to me? If you're looking to get into Scripture, here's a recommendation I got. Start it for Lent if you want. Father Mike Schmitz from Ascension Press out in Denver. Bible in a Year podcast. I think it's like 15-20 minutes on the average a day, and gets through multiple books of the Bible, going through it in a year. You ever wanted to get through the Bible? There's a great way to do it. You got a podcast. Just listen, give that something, and then take a little time to pray about it. If you're going to do the Bible in a Year podcast, probably I recommend a half an hour of prayer. Listen to the podcast, and then take some time for personal prayer to think about it. However it looks for you. Make sure you're getting in 15 minutes of meditation a day. And then beyond that, you want to throw in praying the Rosary. Or maybe you go to church and you make a holy hour. Great. Figure out where that prayer time is going to go. And, maybe you're the kind of person where you can just say, I'll work it in. All right. If you're good about that, so that like, okay, 15 minutes is what I'm committing to a day. Or maybe I'm going to read, whatever the Bible in a Year thing is for today. Okay. If you know that you can work that into your day somewhere, and you're going to have a 15-minute pause or break somewhere, and you can do it, great, more power to you. I will say that as a priest, whose life is supposedly supposed to be more ordered toward prayer, I found for myself that if I put off certain prayer to when I had time, it just, a lot of the time, it didn't happen. It's the truth. So what I had to do was say, you know what? Anything I do before the 6:30 Mass in the morning, that gets done. Guaranteed. Because I can make that the same every day. If I get up at 5, by the time I make my bed and shower and make my coffee and get dressed, I have from 5:30 to 6:30 every day that's the only way I can do that I know that time is going to happen. So that's what I decided to do. I make every day the same. And when I'm on, it's get up at 5 every day. I mean, Sunday through Sunday. Every day. Even if it's my day off. Even if it's, because it's so easy the next day to just blow it off in the morning and like, oh, I already missed that. And so what? Not a good idea. So for me, I know my rule is what gets done before 6:30 Mass gets done. Now, you can figure out your day. I know when I was working at Sprint and, commuting back and forth, I knew that, again, if what I got done praying before I left, that would happen. And then so I decided I would start every day with Mass. And so I commuted in, got to like 7:30 Mass at Ascension, Holy Spirit, someplace like that. And then I got into the Brent campus and got to work. So I adjusted, different time in life. Whatever it is for you, figure it out. Can you allow prayer to be flexible at some point in the day where you get it in, or does it need to be the same time every day? So that's kind of a good anchor to your day. Now, beyond that, I recommend probably scheduling in things like exercise, time for friends, good things like that. And maybe that will be different every day. But maybe your rule says, just like I'm going to pray for 15 minutes a day or whatever. I'm going to do these things each day. I'm going to, call one friend. I'm going to exercise for half an hour. Okay, so your rule might say, I will do these things each day. And then you're going to figure out where they fit. And maybe you don't get to it every day. Okay, but at least this is my rule. And so on the whole, this is what I want to be doing. Am I doing it? And I have things like that too. Like, I want to exercise like 5 times a week to go for a walk. And, I was doing like my push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. Okay, that I got to work on for Lent as well. Isn't Lent great? We get kind of a reboot. But that I can say, all right, I'm going to do this, X number of times a week or something like that. And then I know if I'm fitting it in. So notice that it's not just religious, spiritual things. We want to have a well-balanced life. We're body, soul, okay? We're a composite. Body, soul, composite means we got to take care of our body and our spirit, because the two work together. If we're not taking care of our body, if we're eating like crap, if we're not sleeping well, if we're not exercising, well, pretty soon our spiritual life is going to go in the toilet as well. So we got to take care of both. So you might not think that, exercise is a spiritual thing. Well, I know people who really like exercise, and so it is super spiritual. I am not one of those people. Exercise is hard for me. Okay, even I've lost like 120 pounds. It's still not something I look forward to. I did when I was in Colorado. I can't wait to go hike today. I think we need to move some mountains from Colorado to Kansas, or at least a pine forest and a mountain stream or something, because that inspired me to go out and exercise. Beyond that, exercise is hard for me. I don't do it a whole lot. So have a rule for what you want to have fixed in your day, and then things that you want to accomplish each day that, maybe it is I pray a rosary each day. And so maybe that is something that is flexible, that you can fit in wherever you have time. Okay, I often do that when I'm driving. Lately, I've been kind of praying the rosary in the morning. I pray all this, the Psalms and stuff in Latin, the Liturgy of the Hours, the Divine Office. And so after I finish kind of this formal sort of prayer, I like to kind of just sit back in my chair with my rosary and just kind of meditate a little bit nicely without any kind of formal sort of prayer. So anyway, find those things for you. So daily kind of routines. And maybe, you're going to pray before you go to bed. Some of my earliest memories are my mom kind of tucking me in at night, and we're going to say our prayers before we go to bed. Not a bad thing to do there. Maybe kneel down beside your bed and go over your day. Tell God you're sorry for the things you messed up. Think about the things that were blessings. Thank God for that. I remember my grandma and grandpa, when I would stay at their house, kneeling down, praying a decade of the rosary together before bed. So there are all kinds of things that you might add into your day. But have some kind of a rule. Not to say, like, it's your rule. There's no right or wrong. But if we don't have some kind of, this is what I intended to do, then we have no way to know, did I do it? Am I making progress? Am I doing what I said I would do? At least if I say, okay, I'm going to pray the rosary every day, and you never do it, at least I'm not doing it. I said I was going to do it, but I'm not. So there's something to keep in mind for the day. Now, after we kind of work out the day, okay, so what about for the week? All right, so obviously, number one priority of the week, we get to Mass every Sunday or Saturday evening if we can't, get on Sunday. Sunday is still the Lord's Day. Even if you fulfill the Mass obligation on Saturday evening like we can now, you're still bound to keep holy the Lord's Day on Sunday, which means rest from work. And theoretically, Sunday should stick out as a day that's different than every other day. This is the Lord's Day. I always tell people, if someone observed your life throughout the week, would they be able to tell that Sunday is in fact the Lord's Day? Would it look different? I know when I was in the Holy Land, for instance, So when we stayed in Bethlehem, which is a largely Muslim city today, it's only like, a handful of Christians still there, and it's in the West Bank, so there are no Jews in Bethlehem. Well, when it became Friday, the Muslim holy day, you knew it. Like the whole city shut down. There's nobody on the street. There's nothing open. And the mosques are blaring the call to prayer from the minaret and the weekly sermon. It was obvious. I mean, you didn't have to be Muslim or religious or anything to know if you're in Bethlehem on Friday, you're like, whoa, something's different. And when I was in Jerusalem and it gets to be Friday evening going into the Sabbath on Saturday, like you knew it. Everything shut down Friday evening. It was closed all day Saturday. And then Saturday evening, everything would pop back open. You knew when it was Sabbath, something is different. I mean, you could go down to the Western Wall and see them, celebrating Shabbat, but you knew. Even if you're an outsider who doesn't know anything about religion, you say, "Whoa, what's strange about Saturday?" And someone could tell you. Is that true for us as Christians? So I think number one thing we got to have in our rule is that Sunday takes precedence over everything else. And there are two obligations we have on Sunday. One is to attend Mass. Now, COVID being what it is, that might be temporarily suspended where you are. It is still in Kansas City right now. I don't know how long that will go on. But normally, we have an obligation to attend Mass. That obligation to attend Mass on Sunday can be fulfilled in the evening of the day before. So normally we would say after 4 p.m. On the day before. But also the obligation to keep Holy Sunday. It's a day of rest. It's a day devoted to the Lord. What do you devote your Sunday to? So that might be something to think of for Lent. How are you doing on keeping holy the Lord's Day? Not just going to Mass, although we should all do that. That's the high point. But really to keep holy Sunday the way our Jewish ancestors would keep holy the Sabbath. It's the Lord's Day. So that's the number one thing on our weekly rule of life. Beyond that, what else? Well, maybe you do want to get to daily Mass once a week. If you've got the time, why not? It's kind of good to get a feel for Mass outside just the formal time of Sunday. So maybe daily Mass at some point. Or more likely, especially if you're a family, what are you going to do as a family each week? So maybe at least once a week, maybe you pray the rosary together as a family. I know lots of families who do that every day, but maybe for you it's a once a week thing, or at least during Lent. Maybe you give up TV like one night a week, or even all of Lent, or every day but Sunday in Lent. Replace that with something. Maybe you're going to pray together. I know one family, they're reading through the Bible in the year and the Catechism in a thing, and they do that every evening. When I'm over at their house, I join in, and it's nice. So think about something that you might want to add in this Lent to kind of form a new habit, to set aside some time during the week. Wednesday evenings, we've got the Shawn Baptist Live. You can certainly check into that, 6:30 to 7:30, or catch it on, YouTube or podcast, something like that. There are lots of good things you might add, but try to think of what you would do for a week, okay? And that's going to be very different. Maybe it's, some deliberate time away that you're going to go do something as a family that's not, sports or some kind of organized thing. You're just going to go do something as a family. Maybe it's go out to the park, or maybe go take a walk together, or even watch a movie together or something, a good, religious maybe movie to help you there. All kinds of things you could do for a week. Get it part of your rule, though, so you kind of know, like when I'm over at this family's house and it comes evening time, like, hey, our family prays the rosary together. That's what we do. You're welcome to join us, Father. Okay, that's their rule. And that's not easy. There's things that come up, but on the whole, they pray the rosary, or they're going to read scripture together as a family, or they're going to share their day. It's their rule, and they know it. So they will know if they stop doing it. Then they'll at least have to ask, hey, we stopped praying the rosary together. Did we mean to do that, or did it just kind of fall apart? So have a weekly rule. Okay, then there is, of course, the larger time frame of like a monthly rule. And here I want to Number one thing I would put on there for a month, get to confession once a month. Okay, the average Catholic, if you really want to grow in holiness, I'm not talking about, super Catholics only. I mean the average Catholic. If you want to grow in holiness, you want your relationship with God to really take off, you want to get over habitual sin and move towards habitual grace, you need to get to confession once a month. Okay, and that's actually pretty easy to do right now because with COVID, not a whole lot of people are even getting out. I mean, lines for confession here at St. Pat's are not that long. So 3:30 to 4:30 on Saturdays here. We also do 5:30 to 6:30 on Tuesday evenings. You show up, you're gonna be able to get to a priest and get to confession. But the reason we do that is just like I kind of said, like, maybe every day it's good to end your day with a little examination of how are we doing. And again, if you've got a rule, like, how am I really doing? Well, it's good to do that on a larger scale too over a course of a month. Because we might get off on our rule here and there on a day or two and let things slip. But over the course of a month, you ought to be able to say, have I done it? Am I living the way I ought to? Now, let's say you only go to confession twice a year. Like, I go at Christmas and Easter. Okay, number one, Christmas to Easter is a lot shorter time frame than Easter to Christmas. So you're not really getting to confession like, I go every 6 months. No, you go like every 4 months and then every 8 months. And 8 months is a long time to go without confession. So get in, if you're only checking yourself like twice a year and it's at a penance service and it's really quick, are you really getting a good idea of like where you're at? Okay, if you check in once a month with a priest in confession, and let's say there's like one thing you want to work on, well, you can do that from month to month. It's hard to do that over the course of just, I go twice a year. That's more like I feel like I need to get cleaned up, so I'll go, and it's something Catholics do, but it's not really a part of your life. Okay, if you're going to confession twice a year, confession is not really a big part of your life. It's something you do because, I'm Catholic and I do that every now and then. You want to get holy, put confession on your monthly rule. And maybe it's good that you schedule, I'm going to go on the first Saturday of every month, or the second Saturday, or I'm going to get on the third Tuesday, or whatever it is. And, find out when it's your parish. I mean, there are places that have confessions every day. So you can make this work, okay? And we'll talk more about confession a lot during Lent, but it doesn't have to be this big deal where it's like, if you only go once or twice a year, then it's like, oh my gosh, I got to remember all this stuff, and what do I do? And it's been a while, and you go once a month, you're like, no, confession should be a couple minutes, okay? Unless there's something really unusual going on, it's going to be the usual sin. So I go, Father, it's just the usual stuff. I don't want to keep confessing the same sin. What, you want to confess new sins? Yeah, bring the normal sins. That's just how we get over it. We go regularly. So plan, especially during Lent. Maybe during Lent, go every week. Woo, knock yourself out, go every week. Lift more than you have to during Lent. Then if you want to go back to once a month after Lent, sure, whatever. But at least once a month. So put that on your monthly thing. The other thing that maybe this is, I'll throw this out there as kind of an example, and then you can tweak it for your own particular life. But as a priest, one of the things I like to commit to is that once a month, I'm going to do what we kind of call a desert day or a day of recollection. Kind of like I went on my retreat, where a normal retreat for me is I spend a lot of time in silence and quiet prayer in the chapel and get away from everything else. I'd like to recreate that one day a month, and so maybe I'll get away on a Sunday evening and go away to a retreat house like Christ Peace House of Prayer we have in Kansas City here, or I'll go stay with another priest farther away, or with a friend or something like that, so that I can wake up Monday and spend most of the day just quiet in prayer away. And I'm going to tell you, it's even just doing it once a month, it's hard. Because I have my ideas like, I want to do all these like fun things on a Monday. Monday's my day off, and I could go do this, and I could do that, and I could do this. So to kind of commit to, all right, one day, I'm just going to do kind of peaceful prayer away, quiet. It can be kind of hard because entertainment is easier. But I always find if I commit to that and I do it, I feel better. So what can you do like that once a month? And maybe it's not a whole day. Probably you can't get that, especially if you got a family. But what could you do as a family, or even just, you as an individual? Maybe you can't get the whole family away, but maybe you can say, when the husband gets home from work or whatever, the wife could say, look, I need once a month. If you could take the kids for the evening, I need to go off by myself. I'm going to go to church and spend, 2-3 hours in prayer, journaling, or maybe it's not church. I mean, it's not. Probably not going to spend 3 hours at church. Maybe you're going to go off to your favorite little picnic shelter at the park. You're going to walk and talk with God. You're going to sit and journal, whatever. Something to break up the routine where you're going to say, I'm going to give an additional dedicated time to God. Something like a desert day that I might do. And like I said, I go like Sunday evening, and I go, maybe I finish up then Monday afternoon, and I go out and have some fun Monday evening. Something like that. Go to dinner, go see a priest, go see a movie, something like that. What can you do to have that kind of desert day experience for your once a month kind of thing? Okay, then yearly. What do we do for the year? Well, here are things for like priest. We make an annual retreat. So I just got back from Colorado and doing my annual retreat. A family is probably not going to be able to, like go make an annual retreat, or a husband or wife is not going to be able to get away for like 8 days to do a retreat like I did. But my family growing up, we had the family vacation. And this was basically the family retreat. It's something that we did all together, whether you like it or not. And, we like to go to national parks and go hiking. And by we, I mean me, my mom, and my dad, and my sister would complain. That was not her favorite thing. She wanted to go lie on a beach. So we'd have to try to find, okay, we'll go. You can lie on the beach here in Carmel, California, and my dad and I are going to go hike up on Pebble Beach Golf Course and look around, and, I'm going to look at an otter or something like that. So try to find something for everyone, but you can imagine, trying to find something that the whole family likes can be challenging. But nonetheless, we had the family vacation, and we would normally get in the car and drive and spend almost 2 weeks on vacation. I've seen almost all 50 states. There are just a handful that I'm missing, and that's largely because of the family vacation. We would just drive and go find neat stuff. And the important thing was that we did it together. So a lot of my great family memories are from summer family vacation. It was kind of like our annual retreat as a family. So maybe you can do something like that. Plan the family vacation. And it's great to say, forget sports. Okay? Yep. Maybe if your life is ruled by sports where you say, we can't get away because there's always practice or a game, overcome that. Okay? Your whole upbringing of your family will be gone, and you'll have never done some of those lasting memories like the family vacation sort of thing. So I kind of recommend that. Other yearly things, and we worked religious things into that. So we always went to churches. We never missed Mass on Sunday, even when we were traveling. So obviously keep to that rule, your weekly rule of getting to Mass each week. But, it's great to kind of get out as a family and see different places together. We went to Mass one time. The only Mass we could find was in Vietnamese. Okay. We went to Mass in Vietnamese. Didn't understand a word they said other than probably Amen. But we know the Mass, so it was kind of nice, actually. And it also is a chance to show this is really important. We're going to get to Mass no matter what, even if we're traveling. So there's something for your year. And that's going to be very different for every family. What do you want to put on your yearly kind of thing? So shoot me some ideas. Tell me what your family does for your annual events or rule of life. In addition to the annual retreat, for me, priests also get a week of continuing education, so we can go to a conference or something like that. Do something like that. And so maybe that's a men's conference or a women's conference or a Catholic family conference. I used to go down to Wichita for the Catholic Family Conference every year, or in the Archdiocese, we have Men Under Construction or Women of Grace and things. So there are lots of those kind of once a year sort of conference, retreats, day of recollection sort of thing. Work those in. And maybe it's not something specifically religious. Maybe it's like Once a year, you get the whole family together to go to a baseball game or a football game or something like that. Maybe you go to the Royals once a year as a family. I don't know. Or you go to a museum. We used to go to like the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, or go check out maybe once a year you go someplace nice, like go to a symphony concert. Something to expose yourself to something out of the routine. That's kind of the point of the yearly rule of life. What are you going to do just once a year? Okay, and that's very specific to your family. So figure that out. Okay, so there's a little bit of structure for breaking down what does my day look like, what does my week look like, what does my month look like, what does my year look like, and then maybe there's some big huge goal like we want to go to Disneyland or something like that, or we want to take a trip to the Holy Land or to Rome or something. Okay, so maybe that's a 5-year kind of window. Okay, why plan this? Okay, I know that some people are not planners. When I take those like personality tests, sometimes, they contrast, do you like to plan things or do you like to be spontaneous? And most people kind of fall into one that is more naturally the other. I've tended, as you might imagine, to be on the planning sort of side. Lately, I've been a bit more spontaneous, where I kind of like to see what happens. When I was studying canon law in Washington, D.C., I would drive from Kansas to D.C., so twice a year, there and back. And I just kind of, on my way, I decided, well, see where I want to go. And I remember I was driving back one time from D.C., coming to Kansas City, and I went up to Philadelphia, see Independence Hall, things like that. And then I'm like, where should I go from here? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's pray about it. And I'd like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio. I'll go do that. I'm not even sure where that's at. Find it, Google it. Like, okay. It's like 15 hours away. Why not? Let's go do it. So sometimes I like to be spontaneous. Sometimes it's good to plan. Sometimes it's good to be spontaneous. If you have a rule, you can always be flexible with it and be spontaneous. If you have no rule, then you're really stuck with just flying by the seat of your pants. So I do recommend for Christians that we have a rule of life, because then we at least know, am I doing it? Okay, maybe I said I'm going to exercise every day and I'm not. Well, all right, at least I know. Am I doing that consciously? Because here's the deal. If you don't have a rule, it's really easy for you to think that you're really doing stuff that you're not. Do you exercise? My doctor always asks me, like, how often do you exercise? And sometimes I have to be like, oh, I'm kind of in a rut. I guess I'm not. Now, I don't sit down every day and say, am I exercising today? It's not like a conscious choice, but there have been times where I'm like, no, I guess I'm not really doing that. There's always this gap between who we think we are and who we really are. So having a rule will help you. And this is where it kind of ties in. We started off with, oh, I'm a devout Catholic. Beware, people who say that aren't. But yeah, we might have in our mind, I'm a devout Catholic. I go to Mass every Sunday. Well, I mean, most Sundays, if they're not practice. Okay, well, I get once a month for sure. At least almost every month. And all right, have a rule, and then at least if you're not doing it. If you say, I'm a good Catholic, I go to Mass every Sunday, but there's an exception like every other month or every couple of weeks, then no, you don't. Okay? You do not go to Mass every Sunday. It's good for us to call ourselves on that and just say, all right, I'm not doing it. Brene Brown, the great kind of, she's a modern psychologist, contemporary speaker. She does TED Talks and things like that. I love her books. Check out Brene Brown with a B. BB. She has one of her chapters in Daring Greatly, her great book, called Mind the Gap. There's a sign by the train platforms where there's a gap between the train and the platform. It says mind the gap so you don't fall in between. But she talks more about the gap between who we think we are and who we really are. And so our actions dictate who we really are. It's the old story that I used at a homily a little while ago. There are 3 frogs in a lily pad, and 2 of them decide to jump off. How many are left? 3. Because 2 deciding to jump off doesn't mean they actually jump off. Deciding is not the same as doing. So you might decide all kinds of great things, but if you don't actually do it, what does it matter? You know? So that's where a rule helps us to say, am I doing it? And so part of having a rule is you review it. Am I doing it? Do I need to tweak it? And so Lent is coming up, and it's a great time to kind of say, all right, do I have any order in my life? Is there any structure? If so, let's try to name it. Let's put it down and say, this is what I'm committing to. And Lent is great because we often want to add things or give up things. So we commit to that. We put it down, at least mentally. This is what I'm going to do. Let's do that with our whole life. What am I committing to? What do I want to order my life around? Okay? And then if you want to change it, fine. It's your rule. People are like, oh, if I give up this for Lent, does Sunday count? And hey, it's your stuff. Okay? If you want to give up chocolate for Lent, does it make sense then to have chocolate every Sunday and say you gave up chocolate for Lent? I don't know. Maybe it does for you. Maybe you can't go more than 5 minutes without a Snickers. So giving up chocolate for every day except Sunday is a big deal. On the other hand, if you say you're going to give up going to the casino for Lent and you go to the casino every Sunday because Sunday doesn't count, I don't know that really works. Okay? So it's your stuff, though. Your rule, your stuff. You make a rule that works for you. And if you want to change it, no skin off my nose. Change it. Consult with your priest. Consult with a spiritual director. Consult with friends, like I said. But it's you. Okay? So you decide. The important thing is to give a little bit of structure to your life. So at least am I minding that gap? Am I really who I say I am? And if not, no shame there. But maybe that'll be the impetus to help you do some better things, okay? So tonight we've been talking about having a rule of life. Monks do it, priests do it, you can do it. It's nice to have a rule of life. That way we know, are we doing what we say we are? Part of my little rule is to do Shawn the Baptist live every Wednesday. So 6:30 live here on Facebook. And then if you haven't noticed, if you're new joining us this week, after I'm done here, of course, the video is available on Facebook to share all over the place. Please do that. If you haven't liked my Shawn the Baptist page on Facebook, please do that. Follow it, like it. That way you can find out when I'm going live for like the morning message, things like that. But then also when this is done, there are a lot of people now, especially with all the kind of censoring and things where people are dumping Facebook, dumping Twitter or whatever. YouTube is still kind of generic video sharing. So I upload this video to YouTube after I'm done, and you can get it there on YouTube. Shawn the Baptist also on there. All the video links, everything, you can go to shawnthebaptist.org and click on all the little social buttons. I've got Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I've been doing some photography lately, so I've got some great pictures out on my Flickr photo sharing page. You can click on that from shawnthebaptist.org. Go check all that out. And please do share and like that around because that's how the social media works. So every Wednesday here, 6:30 live. If you haven't signed up for the morning message, follow that. You can subscribe to it as a podcast, 5-6 minutes every morning, a little bit to start your day well. So that's all the things going on with Shawn the Baptist Media, Shawn the Baptist Enterprises, Shawn the Baptist Incorporated. I don't know. I guess I'm not incorporated. Nonetheless, Shawn the Baptist is here for you. If there's something you'd like to see, something you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. But thanks for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks for those who commented and shared. I look forward to reading your comments throughout the week. And I'll be back with you live next Wednesday at 6:30 when it is Ash Wednesday. I do not have the 6:30 Mass or whatever time Mass is here, so I will be live with you next Wednesday and look forward to kicking off Lent together in this strange COVID kind of time. Until then, pray that Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Have a great week.